US President Barack Obama has told a crowd in Cairo he's seeking a new beginning in the relationship between his country and the Muslim world. In a landmark speech, he vowed to fight negative stereotypes of Islam, but he called on Muslims to reciprocate with their attitudes towards America. President Obama went on to give the clearest definition of his Middle East policy, using the word Palestine in restating his commitment to a two-state solution to that conflict. And while he called for an end to attacks on Israel and to Holocaust denial, there were some very direct words for the Israeli government to digest. From Cairo, Middle East correspondent Ben Knight reports.
The band on his arrival in Egypt might have been off-key, but in his speech, Barack Obama hit the right note from the beginning.
I am honored to be in the timeless city of Cairo and to be hosted by two remarkable institutions. For over 1,000 years, Al-Azhar has stood as a beacon of Islamic learning. And for over a century, Cairo University has been a source of Egypt's advancement. And together, you represent the harmony between tradition and progress. I'm grateful for your hospitality and the hospitality of the people of Egypt. And I'm also proud to carry with me the goodwill of the American people and a greeting of peace from Muslim communities in my country. Assalamu alaikum.
This speech has had a huge build-up in the Middle East. People here were hoping and expecting the new president to redefine the relationship between Islam and the West.
I've come here to Cairo to seek a new beginning between the United States and Muslims around the world, one based on mutual interest and mutual respect, and one based upon the truth that America and Islam are not exclusive and need not be in competition. And I consider it part of my responsibility as President of the United States to fight against negative stereotypes of Islam wherever they appear.
But in return, the president challenged Muslims to address their own crude stereotypes of the United States and to banish persistent Holocaust denial. But this wasn't just a speech about attitudes. There were clear indicators of how this administration will tackle the region's flashpoints.
For decades, then, there has been a stalemate. Two peoples with legitimate aspirations, each with a painful history that makes compromise elusive. It's easy to point fingers. For Palestinians to point to the displacement brought about by Israel's founding, and for Israelis to point to the constant hostility and attacks throughout its history, from within its borders as well as beyond. But if we see this conflict only from one side or the other, then we will be blind to the truth. The only resolution is for the aspirations of both sides to be met through two states where Israelis and Palestinians each live in peace and security.
There was little room for Israel to misunderstand its responsibilities in the eyes of the Obama White House.
This construction violates previous agreements and undermines efforts to achieve peace. It is time for these settlements to stop.
Using the term Palestine, the president also spoke to those on the other side of the conflict.
Palestinians must abandon violence. Resistance through violence and killing is wrong, and it does not succeed.
He also addressed other hotspots in the region.
Now, we also know that military power alone is not going to solve the problems in Afghanistan and Pakistan. That's why we plan to invest $1.5 billion each year over the next 5 years to partner with Pakistanis to build schools and hospitals, roads and businesses, and hundreds of millions to help those who've been displaced. That's why we are providing more than $2.8 billion to help Afghans develop their economy. Unlike Afghanistan, Iraq was a war of choice that provoked strong differences in my country and around the world. Although I believe that the Iraqi people are ultimately better off without the tyranny of Saddam Hussein, I also believe that events in Iraq have reminded America of the need to use diplomacy and build international consensus to resolve our problems whenever possible.
There were hints, too, that the US will approach Iran differently.
I recognize it will be hard to overcome decades of mistrust, but we will proceed with courage, rectitude, and resolve.
And underlining it all, there was an admission of America's mistakes.
I have unequivocally prohibited the use of torture by the United States, and I have ordered the prison at Guantanamo Bay closed by early next year.
Barack Obama has a largely friendly audience here in the Middle East. His African and Muslim heritage count for a lot, and he's seen as completely different to previous US presidents. But for all that goodwill, people here are also very clear that they want to see actions to match. Ben Knight, Late Line.